What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Today's video is inspired by a question from one of my subscribers. Let me go ahead and post it on the up here on the screen, and then let me read it to you. This is by Gunline Chief. Question: if there's a curfew, is there still a person who is allowed to stay to conduct business? Or does that change between people when people move before curfew? It's a great question from somebody who's never been to prison and is trying to understand the curfew thing. So before we even get into that, for those of you that aren't aware or still, have heard me talk about curfew yards, but don't have a full understanding of it, let me explain. The Southern Mexicans, Northern Mexicans, and whites have different yards, or in the past had different yards where they put curfews on. You were only allowed to stay there for a certain set period of time, and if you violated that set time and you wound up in the hole, you were getting hit. Whatever happened after that was, on that group. But so to let you know, so up until about 2000, C facility in New Folsom had a curfew, which was 9 months. And a lot of people, when they hear, damn, 9 months, that's a long time. Well, C facility in New Folsom never had dropouts on it. That was a yard that had victims, Southerners that got hit in other spots, and they didn't tell or anything, and they didn't cooperate, and they just wound up on that yard. And that was a stronghold for the Northerners, Northern Raza, right? And they would stay there and they would just do their time and program. They were not functioning as Southerners, right? So dudes were given, you were given an opportunity. You get there, figure out who's doing what, who's not doing what they're supposed to, give you an opportunity to get a couple visits, get your money, get a TV, and then you got to whack somebody, right? And people were always told, hey, make sure before you leave, the day of, if you think somebody's actually cool and just doesn't know any better, ask them, hey, Holmes, you want to go with me? I'm going to handle something right now. If they go, cool. If they don't, then bring the name to the back. You'd come back to the hole and, hey, who'd you ask? Well, I asked so-and-so. Now he's going to be targeted because he's one that, okay, for sure, these guys are there, and this guy chose them over this, right? So C Yard in New Folsom had a 9-month curfew. Tehachapi up until about 1998, once it flipped, which it eventually wound up flipping back. But prior to that, they had a 90-day curfew there. And again, that was enough time for you to get a visit, get your TV and stuff. That was for people that wanted to wait that long. I remember when I was leaving the shoe in 97, I was in the fish tank. I was in orientation with another individual, another homie, was my Sally, and we were both endorsed to Tehachapi. And this is when they were gonna flip Tehachapi in 1997. We were on the very first bus. Every week, 1997, every week they sent a bus from another active level 4 180 yard, sent it over there. Every week there were stabbings on the yard. I mean, it was a setup, basically. And I remember having a conversation with my cellie, and he was like, hey, they put me up for Tehachapi. I said, me too. And he was like, hey, you want to do a hotline? I said, well, I'm gonna do one. No matter what, I'm doing one. And he goes, all right, cool. And I said, what I plan on doing, I said, orientation is gonna be however long it is. Once I'm done with that, I figure it will take me 2 yards to spot somebody that's worth taking down and then moving on them. And my Sally was like, wait a minute, what? Wait, you're going to get off that fast? I said, hell yeah. He goes, well, I was thinking about waiting till like the full 90 days, getting some feria, hitting some dope a few times, selling some dope. And in my head, immediately, I knew this dude's not really with the program. He's going to do what he has to do. But as far as doing what he wants to do, for the program. That's not what this is. And so I try to like, I didn't know the cat, right? So I was like, hey, Holmes, so let me get this straight. I said that yard is gonna be full of trash, and they're gonna know that we're coming to do some damage, and you're gonna be willing to sell dope on the yard, give these dudes an address of a loved one or somebody that's doing things for you on the streets, to supposedly mail you or have people send the money. That, like, you're gonna do that? I said, the longer you're there, the more people start talking. Hey, that Vato right there, yeah, I know he ain't gonna be around. He ain't gonna stick around. I said, and their friends get to hear your name, and then they all get to tell on you when the time comes. I said, to me, that doesn't sound too smart, homie. But you know what? You do you, and I'm gonna do me. So when we went down to Tehachapi, we did not see eye to eye because he did wait. Actually, I think it was a little bit over 90 days before he whacked somebody. And what was on that yard that he could have hit, he didn't. And the dude he did hit, it was a bad look. We'll put it like that. So anyways, there was a 90-day curfew there. Then you had up until very, very recently, I think things changed for CMC East. For the longest time, that place, I mean, you can Google it. You can Google CMC East and Google the history of it. Who's notoriously been housed there throughout the history of that prison. You'll see that Danny Masterson is there right now. You also see that that Jake Harrow's over there. You know, that place is known for a specific thing. But that was a 30-day curfew for Southerners. And again, if you were really like involved in the business, you don't need as soon as you see somebody, like, boom, that's points. Because if you were really with it, you're not going after dudes like, hey, I'm gonna get out of here. I gotta just hit this dude. That was looked at as very bad. So you mean to tell me, out of all the dudes on the yard, you hit the dude that locked up because he owed fucking $20 on a different yard? Like that was your target? Vato had fucking 3 years in the system. But you have this dude over here who's testified, who's taking people down, who was a major factor at one point in his prison career. That dude you decided to leave alone? It's looked at as fear, right? Waste of time. Anyways, so you had those, and then and I wrote another one down. Vacaville, I believe, had a curfew. I don't know. I think I only met one. Take that back. 2 dudes that landed there. I guess they were lower level dudes, and they just threw them over there, and they got off. That was like a medical facility, right? So I don't really know, but I remember hearing that there was a curfew there. But like, if you were a level 4, you weren't gonna land there anyways. That was like level 3 and 2, I think. Who knows? But so there you have it. Those were the curfew yards as far as like the Southerners, and I believe the Northerners and whites all had curfews on all of those same yards. Now to the question, are there people that try to grab a hold of leadership on those yards? Absolutely not. Not anybody that has any brains. Why would you try to grab a yard and establish a yard that you have to leave within a certain, and it's not changing. You're not going to change it. So why would you set up shop? Again, if you try to set up shop on a junkyard, meaning it's full of trash, dudes that you're not supposed to be around, for one, if you're somebody who could establish a yard, you would never want to be around those people. It is your responsibility to get there, find the right target, take that target down, and go right back to Pelican Bay Shoe where you're supposed to be. Now, I will tell you that when I went to Tehachapi, I never made it to the yard. I got snatched up as soon as I got there, thrown in Ad Seg. Then they tried to transfer me from 4A. From 4A to 4B. When they took me into R&R, I told the story, of the videos up. They took the handcuffs off of me in R&R. And when they wanted to proceed with stripping me out, I was scanning R&R. There was a tank and it was full of dudes that were from 4A and they were getting their packages. So I looked in the tank real quick and I didn't recognize anybody. I turned around and there was a guy actually getting a package. And this dude was somebody who was very, very much wanted. And I remember he looked at me and I looked at him and he turned his back to me again. All I had was a razor blade hooked up. And I moved on him, right? And then they put me right back in that SEG. And I remember the cops saying I had the record. They said, damn, it's a 90-day curfew out there. You came back in 5 minutes. So, I mean, even the cops knew about it. From there, I went to Corcoran Shoe, back to Pelican Bay. But while I was in that SEG, everybody that was there, that had connections, that were connected, that had the blessings from people to, conduct business, none of those people, none of us that had the ability to write somebody and say, hey, man, I'm right here if you need, none of us wanted to run that ad SEG. Instead, there was a guy, those are the type of places where dudes that would never, ever have the opportunity to run a yard, or run an ad SEG, anywhere where it's serious, those are the spots that they want. They seek the spotlight. They're too stupid to realize this ain't the spot you want. And that was the case when I was there. The guy that stepped up in the position had been disrespected by COs. Those of us that were there, when this guy said, hey, this is me, we played dumb with him for a couple months just because it was so much easier for him to take all the attention. And then after a few months, he was asked to produce the letter that said that he had the spot. And when he did, it was obvious that he had completely misread the letter. It said nothing of the sort. And so him and his Sally, the two tough guys, were asked to take care of some stuff. They were showing some love, hey, for you not knowing how to read a damn letter. For you thinking that this is a spot that really is worth fucking having on your resume, we're going to have to go ahead and have you do something around here. And so those guys were looked at the whole time as a joke. Now, later, when Tehachapi did flip for a while and you had people go over there that were respected, then it becomes a place where, you could hang out, you could do your thing, you can set up shop, establish business. Once you secure the area, right, where everybody understands this is our area, that's your area, and you have people around, you got hitters, then you can start making money, right? Taking care of the people who really own the real estate, if you know what I mean, right? Have there been people shown favoritism? Yes. But to me, they were dumb to do it. And I'll give you an example. Going down to Tehachapi in 1997, there was a guy that had got there in 1996. I knew him from B-Yard in New Folsom. And when the riot happened, he went down there and he was given the blessings to not establish the yard, but hey, stay there under the radar as long as you can and make some feria, make some money. Now, the person who gave that individual the blessings, that was a somebody. But as a camarada, as somebody who's known to have put in work and known to have been with the business, other camaradas that see that and, hey, Holmes, how long has that Vato been there? Well, he's got a pass from so and so. It's very unwise to accept that type of invitation, because whoever gave you the pass can do that. He is somebody to be respected, but you, in the eyes of the other camaradas, you lay down. And sooner or later, it will catch up to you. And that individual, when he wound up in that seg with us, it definitely caught up with them. And that's a very, very, very rare thing for somebody to get that pass to hang out and make some money. And it's even more rare for somebody to get offered that and to accept it, because that's a blemish. For dudes that want to be a part of that lifestyle, that's a huge blemish. That's something that everybody that went through never forgets. 15 years down the line, I remember that Vato. He went over there and laid down. He decided to just kick it. So hopefully that answered your question. Hopefully that clarified for those of you that have been wondering about the curfew yards. And but no, there were Tehachapi in '97 was a strange thing, because I remember dudes coming to the back and they had been out there too long, and I specifically asked him, why were you out there so long? And he said, well, so and so was waiting on a letter to get the yard, to get the llaves to the yard. I said, what? Wait, hold on. You stayed out there for they were only out there like 93 days still. I said, so you stayed out there because of another man's expectation? He expected to receive some blessing, and so you stuck around hoping that he would get it in time. And what happened with them was they got jumped on. Him and his Sally got jumped on by dudes that should have been a target. And the dude I was talking to had been down for 15 years and had a reputation. That became a very bad blemish on that dude's resume and career. And like I said, that was Tehachapi. That was like the only time where I saw some things where it was like very, very bewildering. We'll use that word. But that's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here. Before I go, if you liked this video, do me a favor and hit the like. Share this video with somebody and leave a comment. Let me know how you feel about it. Ask some questions. Maybe you can strike up a new memory or a new video idea. I appreciate you guys. I'm out.